Hey, what's up, everybody? BDO44 coming at you with another video. All right, so early in the morning, let's talk about Game 5 of the Western Conference Finals. The Dallas Mavericks were able to get Game 3, stave off elimination after falling 0-3 in the series. You definitely understand that you saw an anomaly take place where the Dallas Mavericks basically hit a million three-point shots um, and ultimately put themselves in a great position to close out the game that they did. Now, when looking at this particular game, you understand that there are certain things in this previous game that the Dallas Mavericks did that you probably don't expect them to do again. One being the inefficiency of Luka Doncic. Everybody else was hot. He was kind of cold, to be honest with you. Now his percentages got a little more respectable. He ended up with 30 points at the end of the game. But I think the game goes even more so decisively if he has a good shooting game along with everybody else who shot well. Reggie Bullock bounced back in a major way, hit a trillion threes. Um, Jalen Brunson has been very consistent in this series, continuing to build upon uh, his star, basically. Uh, you got also Maxi Kleber, who played much better in this game, particularly defensively, rebounding the ball, something that needs to continue. He needs to hit shots. Um, Spencer Dinwiddie has kind of found his way in this system over the last couple of games. Looked much better over the last 3 games than he had pretty much all playoffs, contributing quite a bit. So that right there lets you know that the Dallas Mavericks are in a space where they had finally found something. They won the rebounding total for the first time in this series, if I'm not mistaken. Um, found some way to get Steve Kerr to just pull Kevon Looney off the floor for a little longer than usual, which allowed them a lot more opportunities at size, um, advantages and things of that nature that they just don't have in this series. You also saw Dorian Finney-Smith show up and show out. He's been disappearing in a major way in this series. So for him to come up and play well in Game 4 showed a lot of heart as well. So we just understand the Dallas Mavericks are trying to do something that's never been done before. They don't have a full team, so to speak, that should give them enough to overcome a team like the Warriors in theory. But time and time again, when you count the Dallas Mavericks out, here they come again, reminding you that they are able to do the impossible and stay alive in these playoffs despite all of that. I've been on record picking against them the entire playoffs. Utah, I thought they were going to lose that series in 6. Um, going up against the Suns, I thought they were out of there in 5. This series, I picked them to get out of here, and I think it was in 6. They've made it to Game 5. So as far as I can tell, going against them in Game 4, even though I initially said that they were going to make it to 6, was a mistake. But nothing about these playoffs has not been a mistake. Nothing about these playoffs has been predictable. I don't think I've been right about much of anything lately, to be honest with you. And it messes with me a little bit, but not too much, because I understand that what we're dealing with is adjustments. Coaches are just making adjustments in these playoffs. Guys are playing back to back to back to back to back every other night. And, it's contributing to what we're seeing, I believe. Not to mention the presence of betting, for which we've talked about at length more than once over the last several days. So I think a lot of this stuff is just what you can continue to see, and if that's the case, then you're probably going to want to extend this series. They're probably going to want to see Golden State take this thing, in about 6 or 7 games to try to extend it if that stays the case. So I don't know how to feel about this game going into it from a guessing perspective. I think the guess is ridiculous. I think you take the information and you just live with the information, because what I've ended up finding myself doing is, and maybe you've noticed too if you watch enough of my videos, I'll break down everything I see and then we'll guess wrong. And the stuff that I think I'm going to see sometimes actually happens, but for whatever reason, I didn't guess right. So this is just a situation where I'm at a point where I'm like, all right, I trust my due diligence, but my guesses just happen to suck. So I'm just living with it. At this point, I don't know which way to guess. But what I can say is I like what I saw from Dallas. As long as they can continue to shoot the 3-point shot at a very, very high percentage, they're going to have an opportunity to win games. Now, the problem is, how in the heck are we to expect that is going to happen when they haven't shot well in this series, but maybe in one game, as we just saw? I expect the Golden State Warriors to understand that Kevon Looney is a solution for all that they have to deal with in this series, because there's no answer for him. They use Dwight Powell a little more, try to stave off what it is that he does. but ultimately he's able to continue to do what it is that he does, really regardless of what's going on. I just think Steve Kerr was kind of out of it, I guess you could say, given all that had happened that day. I was moved by what he said. I think that what he brought up needs attention. And that's about as much as I can give it here. But all in all, I just felt like he was a bit distracted. And dare I say, maybe have even just kind of let that loss happen. Given all that was taking place, given the fact that it was happening in that state, I just felt like Golden State just said, you know what? Yeah, we can press the issue if we want to, particularly in the fourth quarter. I thought that the Golden State Warriors had an opportunity to really try to win the game, and I felt like they took their foot off the gas. And I'm not going to lie to you guys. I felt like it was done purposefully. I did. My guess is solidarity. I really do believe that, but I have no proof of that. That's baseless, so that's just me talking. At the end of the day, I do believe that the Dallas Mavericks should, in theory, not have enough to beat this team if Golden State does everything they're supposed to do, which is continue to put emphasis on rebounding the ball, limiting their three-point shots while shooting a good percentage of those, and continuing to score in the paint, which they don't have any problem doing in this series. Now, I personally think that that's a risky deal. If they did throw that game for any reason or not push it hard enough for any reason, it was a massive mistake, I think, because you obviously are an older team. Injuries are defining these playoffs. COVID protocol still very much is in play, and you just don't want to play extra basketball with the presence of injuries. You do not. In that same breath, I think one could argue that it's probably best to not have too long of a rest, especially when you're playing back to back. I don't know how the finals is going to be set up. Hopefully they have a little more time and space in between. But nevertheless, you want to stay in a rhythm. If you're stuck in a rhythm, you want to stay in that rhythm. You don't want to be back to back, and then get too much long rest and then start that process back up. That's not good. So I personally think the Golden State Warriors could look at it that way as well if they want to. Saying maybe playing more games is best in that regard. So, what do I expect to see tonight? The Golden State Warriors going back to Kevon Looney, rebounding the ball. Andrew Wiggins putting the emphasis on rebounding the ball. Steph Curry getting back to doing what he did in the first couple of games, pulling the ball off the rim, keeping his rebounds up. That is a successful way to win the series if you're Golden State. They can't rebound with you. The only reason why they're able to rebound with you is because you allowed them the opportunity to do so by acquiescing to all that shooting that was going on. You played their percentages as if they were going to be able to maintain that throughout the entire game, and while they did, you still had opportunities to win it with your second unit, which needs a lot of credit. Jonathan Kuminga, Moses Moody, Bielitsa, those guys really stepped in off that bench when the game was out of hand and cut that huge deficit into a very respectable deficit. So I love the playmaking I saw out of Bielitsa, particularly. Jordan Poole needs to play a little better, but he hit some shots and things of that nature. Klay Thompson, first half Klay is good. No, excuse me. First half Klay is bad. Second half Klay is good. That's been the trend for the last 4 games. So, all in all, that's just what we're seeing. You just expect Klay Thompson to snap out of this, man. Honestly, you expect him to snap out of these shooting woes. Granted, if you look at his numbers just head on, you don't. It's not like you're looking at Max Strus's numbers or Reggie Bullock from 2 days ago. He's not shooting that bad, but he has stretches where he shoots that bad, and it does affect the team. So, like I said, Golden State's been able to get away with it. They've been able to get away with a lot because Dallas just is not able to keep up with them, but it does not necessarily mean that they're playing perfect ball, and that's why the series is continuing. So, this game is in Golden State. They got beat in a closeout game. Last time, history told us that they've closed out Memphis Grizzlies after getting blown out by almost 50 points. So, if the trend continues in that way, Golden State should finish them off tonight in 5. But you have to account for Luka the Don. Luka the Don is one of the best players in the world, and we know how he plays in pressure situations. We saw how he looked in Game 7 against the Suns. This is yet another Game 7 for him. Ain't a Game 7 for the series, but it's a Game 7 for him. His back is against the wall. If he plays loose, like he did in that Game 7, he can do some really, really serious damage to this Golden State team and they will have to play perfect to beat him. So obviously the Dallas Mavericks are the team with their back against the wall 3 times more so, clearly. So all the pressure's on Dallas, everything's pointed at Dallas. But Dallas is in a situation where every team gets in this situation, who is in this particular setting. Every team has to now take on the responsibility of having their back against the wall, which gives them the competition of that difficulty sooner than the team that's trying to knock them off. Now, it's hard trying to close a team out, but it ain't nothing like playing with your back against the wall, knowing that if you don't win, you go home. Being in that space puts you in a position of handling stress and handling pressure that your opponent is not dealing with. And then with every passing game, you get more used to being in that space as they get more fearful of finding themselves in that space. So while they're in the position of power, if you're able to find mismatches and able to play well, you can instill seeds of doubt that may, in theory, help you win the games you're in. And that's all you can do is win one game at a time. But the games you're in, you can have a mental edge in if you're embracing that stress and that space and being poised within that space. If you find a mismatch, that's the key. If you're able to find your strengths in the series and exploit it, in theory, you may be able to chip away from quarter to quarter to quarter, especially if you focus on certain things like rebounding, taking care of the basketball, and good shot selection. Particularly also, of course, getting to the line, drawing fouls, and making sure you get other guys in foul trouble on the other team. Removing their best players from the floor is so important in games like this so that you can keep the other team at a strategic disadvantage. So I'm looking at all of these different things that I say the Dallas Mavericks can kind of hang their hat on, and so can any team in a disadvantaged situation. Unfortunately, none of them have ever overcome an 0-3 deficit, which is what the Dallas Mavericks are up against. However, like Nick Wright said, it's not an 0-3 deficit anymore. They've won one game. Now they got to overcome a 1-3 deficit, and that's been done several times. So, it's who's going to be the first to do it? That's the question. I believe someday it will be done. It may not be in my lifetime, but someday I believe someone will come back from an 0-3 deficit. Could this be the opportunity that it takes place? If you're asking me, I don't believe so. No. I'm going to go with an emphatic no. But as I've already said, 2 things I've already said to you guys. 1, the unexpected has been consistent. 2, counting Dallas out has been consistently a bad decision for me. Each and every time, it ain't worked out. So, and Golden State has given me enough reason to pause in regards to them for getting themselves blown out in that game they did against the Memphis Grizzlies. So, all of that combined gives me a reason to believe that Dallas could probably win this game. They probably could. They shouldn't on the road in Golden State. They shouldn't. But this is Luka the Don we're talking about. They're coming off a game where they were super hot. Maybe. I think it's important that the Golden State Warriors get out to a quick start. I think it's very important that Draymond Green establish himself on both sides of the floor in the paint and offensive glass particularly. That rebounding is going to be the story. If they get back to rebounding like they're supposed to, Dallas is going home. That's it. They have the rebounding advantage, and that advantage is substantial because the Dallas Mavericks have such a horrible shooting percentage from night to night. They're a terrible shooting team. They had a great shooting game, which is why they won. They've lost those other games because they sucked shooting the ball, basically. It wasn't limited to that, but it definitely contributed to it in a major way. So if that's what they have to hang their hat on to win, all Dallas has to do is make sure that doesn't happen. Better perimeter defense, continue to rebound the ball, particularly Steph Curry pulling it off the rim and the bigs continuing to do so. Andrew Wiggins, obviously, of course, contributing there. Now, here's what was bothering me about the Golden State Warriors. Otto Porter. He's important. He's very important. The reason why I think he's so important is because he's a vet that bridges the gap between the superstar vets and the youngin' up-and-coming stars. He's in between that. And not only that, but he does things on both sides of the floor. He can stretch the floor. He's excellent at offensive rebound. He's excellent at just getting in passing lanes and doing different little things that help the team. He accomplished accomplishes Andrew Wiggins with the things that he does very well. They're wings that you need in this league right now. So when you remove him from the situation, now you're relying on guys that may not necessarily help you as much defensively. Jonathan Kuminga's not a great defender yet. Moses Moody, not a great defender yet. Bielitsa, not a great defender. See, you're relying on non-defensive players. Now that GP2 and Otto Porter have been removed. Those are not superstars. They're not even the main role players. But they are extremely important pieces to the depth of the Golden State Warriors and extremely important pieces to the defense's ability of the Golden State Warriors. And when you consider what they're going up against now, Dallas, you can get away with it. Just talking about Boston, which I believe is going to be the team they see in the finals. The way they defend and the ability of those superstars guards, you're going to need all your horses, including Otto Porter, to be at his best in order for you to win that series, in my opinion. So his status is in question, from what I understand. And you just got to pay attention to him. Jordan Poole, he's getting healthier. I want to see them lean on him a little more instead of Klay Thompson, as I've already said. And look, Klay Thompson plays his best ball in the second half. So play him more in the second half. See how that works. Give Jordan Poole the first half. Give Klay Thompson the second half. Since Klay Thompson can't seem to throw a rock in the ocean in the first half and seems to be his regular self in the second half, I mean, it's time to start playing the trims in that regard too. I just don't believe in letting Klay Thompson get my team off to a slow start just because we love him to death. That's just not the best way to help him win. I don't believe that. I think they're getting away with it because they're playing against old lowly Dallas, respectfully. But they can't get away with his shooting like this forever. It's not going to work. He's going to have to either shoot better sooner rather, or they're going to have to manage him better so that he's not taking so much away from the team. The only reason why they're getting away with it is because they're rebounding very well. That's what allows them to brick shots and not have it reflect in their losses. Unlike the Dallas Mavericks, who cannot afford for Reggie Bullock to go 0 for 9, 0 for 10 again, who can't afford Maxi Kleber to go 0 for 6, 0 for 7. That is because they don't board enough. Those turn into possessions for the other team that they convert on. So, yeah, because the rebounding is so important for Dallas, they must do so. And because the Golden State Warriors are capable of rebounding, they can withstand the breakers. So that's all I'm trying to express. All in all, that is the information I think I can give you. Now, whether or not I guess right or wrong about this particular game, I think I've come to terms that the guesses aren't really as relevant. It's making sure you know what you're looking for. That's it. Because the rest of that stuff is just me saying, oh, well, let me pick a rabbit out of the hat. Maybe it goes this way, maybe it goes that way. That's not what I really am good at. What I'm good at is telling you, hey, this is what I see, and that's what it is. And hopefully, with the information we see, we'll see a good game that represents that information. A lot of times, it does not. A lot of times, we're seeing the opposite. So, I don't know. Maybe we'll see the opposite tonight. Luka Doncic got his back against the wall. If he goes off for 50 and a triple-double, you won't see me surprised about it. You won't see me surprised about it. I'll tell you this, though. If he doesn't look to continue to pass the rock, he ain't going to have a chance. He needs his others to continue to play well. The Dinwiddies, the Dorians, the Maxis, the Jalen's, all these guys, the way they played in Game 3 is the way they're going to have to play every game in order to win the series. Simple as that. If they start shooting poorly again, they start getting back to letting Golden State out-rebound them by 10 to 12 boards, this thing ends tonight. Simple as that. My name is BDL44. I thank y'all for watching. I'm out.